Time is 8:19. Welcome back, everybody. Well, there is a shrinking number of safe community spaces for LGBTQ2SA plus folks in Toronto, and the Toronto Islands are no exception. What might just be a quick getaway for some, Hanlan's Point, marks the location of an historic spot in Toronto. LGBTQ2SA plus history following the reports of a homophobic attack on the island on June 5th. We now have to ask, is Toronto still a safe space, and what can we all do to preserve it? We are joined now by Justin Kahn, Director of Public Interest and Legal Initiatives at the 519. Good morning, Justin. How are you?
Good morning. Well, thanks. How are you?
Good, thank you. So good to have you here. So to anybody who's not familiar, tell us a little bit about the history of Hanlan's Point.
Yeah, I think Hamlin's has been a vital spot for queer communities since the 1970s. Toronto's first Gay Day picnic was held at Hamlin's on August 1st, 1971. And this was really a groundbreaking event that was organized by Toronto's Gay Action and attracted over 300 folks, not only from Toronto, but even brought people over from the US, from Detroit. And during the 1970s, we started to see more radical activism than in previous decades. And visibility and organizing became the objectives through which liberation would be obtained. And this was the first event of its kind in Toronto to combine both political protest and celebration, and to encourage feeling good about being a part of the community. And I think it's really important to note that this event was minuscule in comparison to today's multi-million-dollar events. And it was really just the beginning of something much larger. And it was the city's first display of queer and trans solidarity. And the picnics grew larger and larger. And by 1974, Toronto had its first Pride Week, which was a small and unofficial recognized series of events on the island that also moved over to the mainland.
So I have to ask you then, in lieu of these events making headlines, which were shocking, is it a safe space? Because you said, it was and should be a sea of solidarity to meet alongside a safe space. Is it still, in your opinion?
I think we're moving towards the time and a place where these are more than just businesses or bars or physical spaces. It's the fabric of who we are as a community. And Hamlin's is a place to gather where people feel safe, where people feel welcome. And in the context of the pandemic, when we think about what it means to be moving in a family unit or have been bubbling with a household, it's very different for queer folks. Many individuals, particularly young folks, have been in non-affirming households, and these spaces are where community gather, where relationships are formed. And Hanlan's has been one of the very few places in the pandemic, particularly as it starts to warm up, as a place to escape that sense of reality and just to enjoy a sense of community.
So if people are watching and thinking, what can I do to help out? What can I do to help keep this amazing space safe for all who would love to use it? What do you say?
When we think back to the history of, we're in Pride Month, we think back to the history and we're wanting to keep spaces queer, and queer spaces have continued to close down throughout the pandemic. I think it's important to talk about allyship and community. And where folks are at Hamlin's, and it continues to be a popular space, like I mentioned, it's about watching out for the safety of queer folks. When we're at Hamlin's, whether we're queer or an ally, it's about calling out and standing up to homophobia, transphobia, biphobia, and racism. And most importantly, when we want to keep Hamlin's queer, it means keeping it a fun space. We want to keep it a place where we can escape the pandemic, where we can escape the busy city and the busy patios. It's a place where we go to have fun and where we go to feel safe and to feel loved.
What do you hope to see for the future of Hanlan's?
I think there's so much more work to be done, whether it's Hamlin's or we're talking about queer communities. Through our work at the 519, we continue to see an increase in homophobia and transphobia and violence towards our communities. And in May 2020, thinking back to last year, we wrote to the Prime Minister directly to talk about this increase in hate and violence. And we're seeing pride flags being burned in Peel Region when we see local councils in Wingham and North Huron refusing to fly pride flags. I think we need to think about this continued allyship and this continued acceptance for queer communities just past June, just past Pride Month. There's 11 more months of the year. And when we think about the future of Hamlin's or queer space, it's about continuing to feel this sense of allyship and this feel of acceptance throughout the entire year. Because the reality is that there is so much more work to be done, and our communities are feeling at risk, or our communities are feeling unsafe, and we need to ensure that they feel welcome, they feel loved throughout the entire year, not just in Pride Month.
So important. Thank you so much, Justin. If people would like more information, where can we go?
Definitely visit the519.org. It's where we can see many of the resources and the services that we provide as an agency to support queer communities in our local neighborhoods. And I think it's definitely just a place where you can also find events that we're hosting throughout Pride Month and throughout the rest of the year as well.
Happy Pride Month. Thank you so much, Justin, for
Happy
taking
Pride
time. It
Month.
was so
Take care.
important. Love to you. For more information, you can also head on over to this website, toronto.ca/Island Master Plan.